Jerusalem, as you all know, is an ancient city, and the Jewish connection to Jerusalem is based on the Hebrew Bible, Genesis 22, where God instructs Abraham to take his son Isaac to a place called the land of Moriah, Eretz Moriah. And in Jewish tradition, it's the mountain that way where the Dome of the Rock is, about 100 meters, 300 feet. And that's the holy spot. If you're on the mountain, there's a rock on it, and the rock is the holy spot. And Solomon, 3,000 years ago, king, built a temple on the mount. That way, where the dome is, there was a temple. And the city developed to the south, this way, that way. If you visit the city of David, highly recommended, you'll see where the city was. It went that way, not to the west, to the south. So there was Solomon's temple, roughly 3,000 years ago. It lasted about 410 years until the Babylonians invaded. They conquered, destroyed the temple and the city, took many Israelites into exile in Babylon. Many of the exiles returned, and upon their return they built a second temple where the first one had been. It was not as wonderful, as glorious, or anything like that, but it was there. And the great change came 2,000 years ago when the Romans conquered. And the Romans appointed as king over Judea, some of you might have heard of. His name was Herod. Now Herod was many, many things. First and foremost, he was the greatest builder in the land of Israel. From Caesarea in the north to Masada in the south, he built, especially in and around Jerusalem. And what he wanted to do for a variety of reasons, and it's great discussion over them, whether to impress the Romans, to improve his ties with the Jews or whatever. Among the things he wished to do was to take the second temple, which was there, a small little building, and turn it into something monumental. But he realized in order to do that, as the engineers told him, the mountain was too small. So he would have to basically extend and expand the mountain, build a huge base on which to put his temple. And that is what they did 2,000 years ago. So they built what is called the Temple Mount. It's what you see outside today. That's the western wall. It's 1,600 feet long, 488 meters long. The piece you see outside in the plaza is the white piece. It's roughly 196, 200 feet. It's about 1/8 of the length of the wall. So the wall is about almost half a kilometer long. It's huge. So there's the wall. In front of the western wall, when you're in the plaza outside, you don't see it today because over the centuries and millennia it's been built up and filled in, but there's a deep valley. And the question always was, how did one get from what Josephus, the historian who wrote of the period, Josephus, he says, how did people get from the higher parts of the city to the Temple Mount? Meaning the Jewish quarter in the area near the Jaffa Gate. If you're there at the Tower of David, that's the highest point in the old city. So what happened was, about 2,200 years ago, before the Romans, the Hasmoneans, the Hashmonaim, the Maccabees, the people who brought us Hanukkah, they built a bridge across the valley. So this was the Maccabean bridge, there is the wall. So if we go back here, you see the wall, and there is the bridge. Okay? There is Herod's temple. It was white marble, gold, and precious wood. It stood about 2.5 times as tall as the present Dome of the Rock, so it was huge. And Josephus, the historian, says that when people came to Jerusalem from afar and looked and saw the temple on the mount, he says it was like looking at a snow-covered mountain. It was remarkable. There was nothing else around it, and it was one of the great, great structures. So it was used for religious purposes until the time of the Great Revolt, 66-70, when the Romans destroyed the temple, burnt the temple, and the city. So the temple and the city are no more. So there they go. The temple is no more, the bridge and the wall. The Romans then rebuilt Jerusalem and turned it into a Roman city called Aelia Capitolina. They put in major roads, they rebuilt and expanded the bridge, and some people even claim that on the Temple Mount they built a temple to Roman gods. So there's the bridge, the wall, and a Roman temple, perhaps on the Temple Mount. So Rome, Jerusalem was then a Roman city. In the 7th century, in the 600s, the Muslims come, and they conquer the city and turn it into a Muslim city from the 7th century on. And one of the things they build in 680, 690 is what you see outside today, the Dome of the Rock. It's one of the most important and one of the earliest Muslim structures in the world. So there's the dome, there's the wall, there's the bridge, and the Muslims put in a reservoir in one place in front of the wall for some reason. And over here you see a building next to the bridge. Right? So Jerusalem is a Muslim city. About 750 years ago, another group of Muslims from Central Asia comes to the Near East. They set up shop in Cairo. They're known as the Mamelukes, and many of the Mamelukes settle in Jerusalem. And Mamelukes were Muslims, and Muslims pray how many times a day? Five. So if Muslims settled in the valley in front of the wall, and they wished to pray on the dome, they had to go up and down 5 times a day. So they wondered if they could simplify their lives. And what they decided to do, in the valley north of the bridge, meaning this way, in order to make life easier and easier access to the dome, they built gigantic arches. And on top of those arches, they built what is today the Muslim quarter of the old city. So if you watch the screen and don't blink, because they work very quickly, you'll see the way the Mamelukes about 750 years ago changed the face of the city entirely. So here are the Mamelukes. You see the arches. And so that's what you have. So the Muslim quarter is there on top of huge arches. This is the plaza. That's the piece of the wall you see, the white piece from the earlier picture. And there is the dome. In 1967, after the 67 war, Israel provided new homes for the people who lived here. It was a poor Muslim neighborhood. They were given new homes, and the homes were removed, and the plaza was created. So there's the plaza, the wall, the dome, the Muslim quarter, and you all came in here, this building. So where are we, and what are we going to do? Well, where did the bridge go? What happened to the ancient bridge? Where is it? If you look above you, you'll see Muslim parts of the bridge above you from there here. So if we look further at this picture, the plaza, the wall, the dome, the Muslim quarter, the Jewish quarter over here, the parking lot over here. What happened to the bridge? Where's the bridge? We have to look for it. So there's the bridge. We're under it. We came in here and we're under the bridge. And we'll see what it looked like way back when it was new. So there, so the original walls, the bridge, and that building. The archaeologists became very interested in that building, and they've been excavating it for the last 10 or a dozen years. So what we will do is look at that building more closely. So there's the building, the bridge, and the wall. You all with me? Mm-hmm. Good. So let's take the roof off the building. The bridge, and here's the building. You see a room in the middle with what look like columns and fountains, what looks like a pool over here, and steps and water over there. And then you see a double dotted black line through the building. The building was built by Herod. It was built by him for his best friends and best supporters in Jerusalem and elsewhere, who when they came to Jerusalem had a pied-à-terre, a place to relax, chill out, and take it slow. So this is Herod. About 2 or 3 centuries after Herod, the Romans had no interest in the building. They wanted to build a bathhouse. So they put a wall straight through the building, and over here built a Roman bathhouse. So what the archaeologists have done in the last 10 years is excavated that building. So if we look at it, what we're going to do is this. We're over here. We're going to come down these stairs and enter the first part of the building. This is the hardest part of the tour. Please be careful. Don't trip, don't fall, don't hurt yourself. I've never had anyone have a problem. I'm not starting today. So we come down the stairs into the first part of the building. I'll explain what we know about it. Okay? Then we go into a second part of the building, which is really a passageway, where you saw the columns and the fountains. We'll talk about them. And then we come into the third part of the building, which was a public reception hall under Herod 2,000 years ago. It's a lovely room. And then we come into another room. And that room has three ritual baths from 2,000 years ago. One of them still gets water in it. I'll explain that. And then we come here. This is the western wall. Okay, we're going that way. This is the western wall. Any of the men, if you're in the plaza and you walk up to the wall, there is an opening like this. You can walk in and pray against the wall, the men, on the men's side. That's the last arch of the bridge. It's an original part of the bridge. It's called Wilson's Arch. It's about 40 feet, 13 meters or so. It's magnificent. And what the archaeologists wanted to do was see what the wall looked like under Wilson's Arch. And so we will be here against the wall. We will be about 100 feet or 30 meters in from the plaza and a level beneath the plaza at the wall. That room was full of all sorts of junk from about the year 300 until about 10 years ago when they started to excavate. So if you ever wondered what the wall looked like when it was brand new, I can't show that to you. Outside, it's been weathered for 2,000 years. What you'll see in here, and that's really one of the great sights to see, is the wall as it appeared after about 300 years. And since then, it's been buried until about 10 years ago. So you'll see the stones of the wall as you can't imagine them. And while they were digging at the base of the wall, they made another startling discovery which no one really knew anything about. You'll see that, and we'll talk about that as well. Okay? Then we go inside, and if a model is working, we see the model, and I do one magic trick, and then we see the newest synagogue in here, and then we come back to the lobby, and you all go where you go, and I have another tour. So that's what we're going to do. Any questions?